Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com. In this tutorial, we're going to look at how we can wire up these beans using annotations. In fact, there are various ways of using annotations to wire beans in Spring, and we're going to start looking at a Spring kind of native Spring way of doing it in this tutorial. But you can also use two different ways of wiring beans. Using that come from Java standards that have been developed since Spring came out, as far as I know, or at least let's say there are definitely several different ways of doing what you're about to see. But we'll start with something nice and easy. So I've got this basic project, and I've added the context namespace. I've added the context annotation-config tag here in the last tutorial, and we want to wire these two beans into this bean. So it's pretty simple. Let's go to the logger bean now, and all I have to do is, here we've got two set methods and they both expect a bean, and in each case we have declared beans of the right type in the XML, because what we're about to see works purely by type, and there's no ambiguity, so we've got the exact right types of the beans here that we want to wire into these methods. And they correspond exactly to the types of beans that we've got hanging around here in the XML. So all we have to do to wire in the beans to these set methods is add the auto-wired annotation to them now, at least once we've set this stuff up in the XML. So I'm going to type an @ sign. So this, if you're familiar with Java annotations, then this will be dead simple, and if you're not, then it's still pretty simple. Annotations, they go before things like classes, method names, and properties, attributes, private instance variables, whatever you like to call them. And they start with this @ sign, and then you have you have a Java, you have a Java class name. Sorry about that, which therefore starts with a capital letter, because it is a class name, and I'm going to use the auto-wired annotation here. Auto-wired, like that. In fact, if I do Control space after typing a few letters, hopefully that will autocomplete. There we go, auto-wired. So if you're not familiar with annotations, just remember this is an actual class name. You can find the actual class in a Spring jar somewhere. It's just a bit weird that you type this @ sign there and it goes before a method name like this. And even if you haven't used annotations much before, you've probably seen the override annotation, for example, which Spring puts in automatically if you use, which Eclipse uses automatically if you try to override methods from a class, a parent class in Eclipse. But anyway, so that's all I need to do, just put that @ sign auto-wired with a capital A annotation above this method, and let's also put one above this set file writer method here, like that. And I'm just going to run this, and hey presto, we've now wired the beans to the right types into these set methods. Now, in fact, this particular annotation is not very flexible as regards how you wire things in. It's purely working by type. We can do some stuff with it, which we're going to see shortly. But this is not hugely flexible. But having said that, you can use it in various different positions. So this works, that's fine. Let's comment it out for a minute. But you could also put auto-wired even just in front of the property names themselves, like this, auto-wired. And again, as long as there's no ambiguity, you mustn't have different possible beans that could match the type of these properties, then you're fine. And if we run that, then it works, even though these are commented out now, so they're not doing anything. We could auto-wire constructors as well. Let's comment these out. So let's put in here a constructor. I'll right click and go to source, generate constructor using fields, and tick these two properties, and I'll put auto-wired in front of the constructor. So now we've got a constructor that can auto-wire these two properties, and all the other auto-wires are commented out, so they're not doing anything. And we're going to auto-wire into these two properties, which is going to set these two in the constructor. And again, that works. So if I save this and run it, then you're fine. You can even mix auto-wiring a constructor like this with auto-wiring a method, a set method. Let's say we've got this set file writer method that's auto-wired, and let's say the constructor only expects the console writer, so it doesn't deal with the file writer. We can mix auto-wiring one of those properties with a constructor and auto-wiring the other with a property. Let's run this. And in fact, this is not happening by name at all. It is purely by type. So even if this method has some crazy name like that, then it's still going to work. So this is purely a thing that happens by type. You could call your set methods whatever you want. They don't even have to be set something or other. It makes no difference. And we saw before that in the XML you can't mix, as far as I can see, auto-wiring constructors with auto-wiring properties, but using annotations you can now do it. Let's do Control Z here. In fact, what I'll do now is I want to show you one last thing here. So I'm going to comment out this constructor like this, and let's auto-wire the properties. So I'll comment out this auto-wired on both of the set methods, and let's uncomment the properties here. Because the thing I want to show you is that, let's check that this works, is that you can auto-wire properties, even private properties, even if the set methods aren't even present. So we could just delete these like that and run this. Whoops, let's run the right program here. And it still works. So you don't even need the set methods to auto-wire properties, even if they're private like this. And by properties here I just mean these instance variables, of course. Okay, so what I'll do with this source code is I'll leave some of these different possibilities in, so that if you want to look at the source code you can check them out, but I'll comment them out so there's only one set that's actually working, so you can see a working program. And we're going to move on to looking at some different types of auto-wiring and some things you can do again to reduce ambiguity. And hopefully we can go a bit faster than previously, because you know the basic concepts behind auto-wiring now. All we're doing now is looking at them really using annotations instead of XML. So until next time, happy coding.